Maurito Zarate, fascia destra, attaccato da 2 uomini, vediamo un po' cosa riesce a fare. Maurito entra in rigore, Maurito il tiraccio, respinta, attenzione Kolarov, la ribattuta, il gol! Il gran gol di Kolarov, l'avevo detto, è sempre lui! La palla che non è nemmeno scesa di controbalzo di sinistro, l'ha messa alla sinistra del portiere.
With as much drama centered around the organization of Lazio this season, the Formello where the players train looks more like the Jersey Shore than maybe a soccer training ground. There's been legal battles, in-house player squabbles that just want to make you pull your hair out, and it's definitely been just all in all a roller coaster first half of the season, which came to a close, coincidentally, this past Sunday. With the Ritorno part of the season now upon us, we have a lot to cover in such a short period of time. But obviously on today's edition of the North Curve, our first priority will be to look at the upcoming Mercato and everything that it brings. The usual cutting up of Lotito and my Ballardini question of the day. And to help us out, we have in studio longtime Lazio supporter Julian McNaughton with us. Julian, how's it going?
Not bad, thanks everyone, Mike.
And we got Vice President of the Lazio Club Canada, moderator of Lazio Forever, that ravishing bald hero that we love so much on the phone, Daniele D'Ambrosio. How are you? I made up a word for you, bravishing. You all right? Don't get into any car accidents on Lazio's account because they've already put us through too much this year.
We safely parked in a grocery store plaza, so we can have this conversation without worries.
That's very good. You've done your part again. Like I say so many times, Lazio takes up too much of our lives. But let's get right down to it. Our intro is, obviously, today we stand here in 2010. Obviously, it's been a little bit of a surprise. We're undefeated, believe it or not, in 2010. 3 games, no losses. Okay, 1 was a tie, big deal. We're still undefeated. We'll take what we can get. And all the positives that come out of 2010 will hopefully drown out all the negatives that took place even in the beginning of 2010. Obviously, the big thing, us losing Pandev for absolutely nothing. All the drama that's unfolded within the clubhouse and everything that goes along with that. I'll put out the question to Julian first. Is there anything that stood out for you in 2009 with all the ups and downs, either positive or negative, that you want to touch on quickly?
The thing that bothered me the most is they based the team mostly on Zarate. They put too much pressure on him to score all the goals. He's a great player and all, but he can only do so much that there's only so much that one player can do at a time.
What sums up 2009? I guess the word frustration. I mean, if you were to combine the end of, actually, if you were to look at January 2009 up until, January 1st, 2010, I'd say you probably have a relegated team right there. I mean, like Julian pointed out, I think there is a lot of pressure on Zarate, but I'm beginning to think that he's not all what we thought he was. I'm starting also to think that he might have been a bad purchase, to be honest with you. And if the rumors are correct, and Arsenal is offering $40 million, I would say take it.
And that's just it. It's been a trying season for all of us with all these rumors back and forth, selling the team every day. It looks like we're going to sell every player on our squad, and then every day it looks like we're going to buy the biggest name. But the truth is, it just doesn't come down to that. Okay, we struck gold with Flocari, and who really saw that coming? I mean, me and Julian were talking about it before we went on air and said, here comes Sergio Flocari, who looks just like the next Rolando Bianchi, but he's going through a purple patch, you would say now. His form is there, and hopefully he can take that pressure off Zarate, because I still think Zarate personally has a lot to show for himself, and we got to keep in mind, this kid's 22 years old. His mannerisms on the field display that of a child's, and it's poor, and it's not acceptable, but his brain is not fully developed and things like that. So I'd have to agree with Julian that, there's been too much pressure. And obviously that comes down to ownership. And okay, here's swipe number 1 at Lotito, the businessman himself. Here he is. We're looking at day 10 of the Mercato. We're at January 15th. Actually, day 15 of the Mercato. Here he is. We have an offer put forth for a player like Pandev in the sense that Ledesma also wants out of this squad. And we have a bid in the region between $5.5 to $6 million, plus Rene Krin, a promising Slovenian midfielder. Don't know anything about him. Inter's actually put out a formal bid that's now been rejected by Lotito. And I ask, have we not learned anything in the past couple of weeks? Are we going to let, we have an offer in place, in principle, to take, and here we are scoffing at that. Your thoughts, Dan?
Just to touch back on that Zarate thing, he's a bit of a spoiled brat, as I'm starting to notice. And if you combine that with Lotito's poor personnel skills, or people skills, I should say, it's a bad combination. And I'm hoping it doesn't turn into another Pandev situation. As far as Ledesma goes, 5 to 6 million plus Rin. I mean, I've never even seen this kid play. Apparently, he's a Slovenian international, which is great, and he's young, so which makes him a good prospect. I heard Juve and Fiorentina were also interested. I'm hoping that maybe Lazio might be able to get more money out of those deals, but I mean, we got to take what we can get for this guy for sure. I mean, if nothing happens by the end of the month, then we lose out completely, and that makes two people, Pandev and Ledesma, and I would estimate both those players worth about 30 million.
Combined, yeah, absolutely.
That we've lost out on,
Julian, you feel the same?
Back to the Zarate, I feel like Zarate is like a younger Cassano. It reminds me of Cassano back in the day. But Ledesma, I've heard rumors from Fiorentina and Juve may be making offers, but I can't really see Fiorentina offering a young star or someone, or a young starlet. But if we can get money and a younger uprising star from Juve, Juve's been known to produce some of the best stars in Italy. I'd rather take that over an Inter bid.
You look across all of Serie A with regards to Juventus, players that you didn't even know, Juve has a hand in them. They either own 50% of them or own them outright, and they're on loan. You just look at every small provincial club in Serie A this year, from Bari, Ranocchia, and Lanzafame at Parma. I mean, Juve has a hand in everything. And yeah, I definitely agree that if we could get somebody, one of these up-and-comers from Juve, that would be the way to go. But I would have taken this guy. That's the thing, How can you scoff at a bid, our first formal bid for Ledesma, with a player coming back, which is a body, just in general, because our depth is so poor this year? How can you say no to that? Does Lotito know something we don't, in the sense that maybe this tribunal is going to vote in favor of Lazio this time? I really find that hard to believe after they let Pandev walk for nothing either.
I think Lazio has become pure drama this year, and I honestly think Lotito's made them the laughing stock of Serie A. I mean, with respect to the way they've been playing all of 2009, and the way he's handled the transfer, the Mercato, it's absolutely pathetic.
If you were looking at the Mercato on our end, if we were to take off our hatred for Lotito and just pretended that he wasn't in charge and that he hasn't lied to us for 5 years.
Okay, do you want me to dream? Okay, let's hear it.
With regards to, let's say we had a half-decent president in place who wasn't afraid to spend money or wasn't afraid to make poor purchases and handle his players with respect, where is, on the lines of incoming players on the up and up, players coming in, where do we address first? Is it the defense or is it the midfield? Because if we were going to follow Lotito's way, we'd be out looking for a 5th or 6th striker without even touching our midfield or our defense, when we actually swap defenders for midfielders, back forth, vice versa. We don't have either one in place. Where do we need the help the most, and who do we bring in?
Personally, I think our defense really isn't that bad. I mean, since the inclusion of Standardo, they haven't really been that bad, but I still feel, we can definitely strengthen the central defense. But I think the real help is in the central mid. I mean, personally, Baronio, it just pains me to see this guy on the field every single game. And, he's in Matuzalem. He's not a starter, He's not a guy that should be playing an entire 90 minutes. I expect a little bit more from Lazio. I expect us to go out there and bring in some quality. So, hopefully, Lotito's going to be tying down Cigarini, which sounds pretty realistic right now. I read today, actually, Fiorentina is pretty close to signing Milan, the Argentinian midfielder. And I was really hoping that we were going to get him as well. He sounded pretty promising.
So, along those lines, we got to remember, it was kind of funny. Somebody brought this up on the forum not too long ago. props to that person. Don't remember exactly what it was, but Fiorentina and Lazio for the longest time seemed to be on even keel, and we both looked like we were going on the up and up. Now all of a sudden Fiorentina's taking that extra step. They sold Luca Toni, but that didn't hinder them at all because they went and they reproduced that money and they got Jovetic and these kind of guys and Gilardino and you know what I mean, and Mutu's still there, and the core players have not been interrupted. Us on the other hand, we can't seem to not interrupt the harmony of our squad if our lives depended on it, no matter how long players have been there for.
Absolutely. Like, Fiorentina knows how to reinvest their money. Lazio knows how to buy, mediocre, less than mediocre players and, keep them on the bench. I mean, what was the point of buying Alessio and Cruz, just to sit them on the bench? And we didn't even need a striker and a